Hello, and welcome to this episode of Demystified as we explore home cooking in a modern world. Hello, I'm Linda, and this is my friend Paul. Hi, Paul.
This is,
I
you're
know.
not sure what to do anymore, are you?
I'm not. I've been saying the
Yeah.
same thing for so long, and now I'm all out of whack.
Yeah. How are you?
Good. How are you going?
Yeah, lockdown. How many weeks in are we? Five and a half? No, five. Five?
It's just
Four
becoming
and a half.
4.5, and potentially
Ugh.
four more to go. But that's all right. It's got its upsides.
Does it? Okay, list them. Go.
Having lunch at home, yay! I get lunch. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Watching the birds and the young. I know
Come on.
I'm clutching at straws. I know, but anyway.
Yeah.
And so today's topic
Anyway.
is interesting. This is what not to steam in a steam or combi steam oven. Great.
Yeah, so sort of been thinking about this a little bit and might start with what not to steam. And when I say steam, I'm just kind of striking out combi cooking, so just the straight steam cooking. And so there's a few things which I've tried previously which haven't actually worked at all. And it's sort of been a thing where steam hasn't helped me one little bit. And the first thing that comes to my mind is eggplant. Steamed eggplant is just horrible. I'm sure there's probably dishes out there with steamed eggplant in it, and I haven't done a lot of research into them. But yeah, that's you can't get the bitterness out of the eggplants because there always is a little bit of bitterness. But yeah, terrible, horrific. So yeah, steamed eggplant, no good. So yeah, unless someone's got a bright idea that they want to pass on to us, avoid steamed eggplant. Now, the other one which I was thinking about was we've done, mash and gnocchi and sort of, puree potato type things using the steamer to cook our potatoes. But you have to be aware of the potatoes that you're using. So really, really starchy potatoes aren't that good if you're going to make a puree out of them when you steam them, if that makes sense. So anything that's super starchy is actually better off being dry roasted or boiled because you cook the starch out of them. Whereas with the steam, you don't seem to be able to get that starch cooked out of them, and it ends up being a bit gluey. So that's another one to sort of, don't steam potatoes, but just be aware of which potatoes you're choosing. Ask your greengrocer. And if they're super starchy, because at different times of the year, the same potato, let's say a Desiree potato or something like that, will be more starchy at a certain time of year versus another time of the year. So yeah, just keep an eye on which time of the year and which potatoes you select. If you're going to make a mash or some gnocchi or some sort of puree with potatoes, because steaming a really starchy potato, no good. No good.
Well, this leads me to it's interesting for me. Potatoes. How can you tell, are there types, what are the types of potatoes? And just for, I just go for, are they washed? Are they small? Are they big? What am I looking at? I don't necessarily choose, starchy. It hasn't been a question I've ever looked at, on my shopping list. Maybe potatoes for, whatever we're doing, but I don't put down starchy or not starchy potatoes.
This coming from the latest spud farmer of Brunswick.
They haven't harvested yet, but they're close.
So, I'm not going to go through with you the million zillion varieties of potatoes, but there are quite a lot, and all of them will serve a different purpose depending on what you want to get out of them. So some potatoes are better for roasting, Some potatoes are better for frying for chips, like a Maris Piper or something like that. Idaho potatoes are quite good for that as well. Then you've got sort of your all-purpose, all-rounder potatoes like a Desiree. We used to use King Edwards as well, was another one which was a pretty good all-rounder, a little bit sweeter. And then you've got your really waxy potatoes like Kiflers and stuff like that. So they're all different sorts and they all have a different texture, slightly different taste. So a potato's not just a potato. Don't be dissing the potatoes, Linda. Like, that's not right.
I'm just trying to think of, I know it was many months ago that I last went shopping for food, but I'm just trying to think, I'm pretty sure I saw small, what they call baby, but I'm sure they're just small potatoes, white brushed or washed potatoes, brown unbrushed or washed, Pontiac, and that'll be about it. And sometimes fancy ones have, what are those ones you just said, the waxy one?
Maris Piper, Kiflers.
Kiflers. But I really, I've never actually, well, there you go.
Well, all of those potatoes, like the washed, the unwashed, the baby, they will all be a variety. The problem is that what big chain supermarkets especially have done now, have changed the names of some of these potatoes. So you'll see on, the bag, and this is why I generally won't shop there. I'll go to a market. You'll see on the bag, it'll be something like Red Delight. Like, it'll be a Desiree potato, but they've changed the name to from what it used to be because it's, I don't know, more marketing friendly or something like that. But yeah, all of those potatoes are varieties of their own, and each variety has a different use. You're better off going to a greengrocer, really, and a good greengrocer will have a varied selection of different types of potatoes. And you just need to ask them. That's the best way to do it, is ask them and just say, these super starchy, are these really waxy? If you don't know, talk to your greengrocer.
But what you're using it for.
Yeah. And say, I just want a good all-rounder. Like, a good all-rounder to have, a good all-rounder will give you something that's pretty good for roasting, something that's pretty good for mashing. You can make a potato salad out of it. Like, you can make a rosti out of it. You can do whatever you like. And that's pretty much an all-rounder. But if you want to get into specifics, like if you consciously want to go out and make your own potato chips or French fries or whatever you want to do, there are particular potatoes which do that better than others.
Okay. Well, there you go. Shows what I know.
But we went off on a tangent about. No. Well, it's like
you think it's really easy, but for I've never really got my mind around waxy versus starchy potatoes.
Well, okay, so the best way to get your head around it is get some Kifler potatoes and try and make a mash out of it. You're going to end up with like wallpaper paste. Oh,
really? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
There you are.
So, potatoes aren't just apparently this episode has gone from what not to seem to sticking up for potato farmers. Potatoes aren't just potatoes. There's people that put effort into getting, you've put varieties in your garden.
Yeah, I've got 14 varieties. Yeah, White Star. And I'm thinking of a family that I know down at Portland who are potato farmers. And, that's what their whole livelihood is, just growing potatoes all year round.
We'll talk to them. I'm telling you, they will know the ins and outs of like what potato is good for what and what the preparation of it is good for. And if you hear, back to our original topic, Linda, as soon as you've taken us off on a weird tangent, but if you hear them talk about something that's quite starchy and it's got a high starch content, generally not as good for steaming.
Okay. Well, there you are. See, we're back to a topic now. Well done.
Well, I'm trying to bring us back. I'm, putting the reins on it a little bit.
Well done. Well done. Well, thank you for that little diversion.
No, that's all right. And so other things, there are a few greens which I find, while you can steam, they're just not as good. So like chicory, I know it's not something that we do often. Anything that's got a little bit of natural bitterness to it doesn't seem to because when you cook it, you want to get a bit of that bitterness out. It doesn't seem to get it out as much. But
Okay.
anything that's got that little bit of bitterness to it doesn't seem to get any benefit from being steamed. If you want to have it healthy, so, like we say, your steam oven's good for a lot of things, but there are occasions where you might want to employ a different method, like blanching or boiling or, pan frying or whatever it might be. And it's the same with beetroot greens, so chard as well. So we've done silver beet and stuff like that, which is a cousin of rainbow chard, and which is a cousin of beetroot greens, essentially. And again, it's the leaves are really good, but the stalks, you never seem to be able to get that little bit of bitterness out of them. So anything that you associate with maybe just having that little bit of bitter taste to it, just take note that when you steam it, you'll find it difficult to get that out. You might have to dress it a lot more, or you might have to do something else with it afterwards, just to mask it a little bit, or move your thought when you're eating it away from bitter, because it just doesn't seem to come out. So any of those bitter things, so eggplant, any of those bitter greens, and there's a lot of bitter greens, endive, stuff like that, just doesn't seem to work for it. But other than that, like I was thinking about proteins and all that sort of stuff, like we've pretty much cooked, a lot of different things and a lot of different proteins in the steamer and just on steam. So it works really well for a whole lot of stuff, but there are a handful of things which I don't, and all of this is objective, really, isn't it? They're the things that I don't think have seen any benefit, And the other thing to remember, and we've talked about this before too, is remember that when you're steaming, you're not getting. Now, I'm not talking about combination cooking. I'm talking about just steaming. When you're steaming, you're not getting the color on it. So you have to be aware, or you have to, take note to add flavor elsewhere. How are you going to add flavor? Because color will give you flavor. So while you can steam your beetroots, and it's a really good way if you're going to do your own pickled beetroots at home, that's a fantastic way to do it. If you want to have that sort of deep, earthy, rich beetroot flavor, you might be better off switching your oven over to combi and roasting your beetroots. You get totally two different results from the same vegetable. So just remember that when you're thinking about what you're going to steam, think about whether it's going to be bitter or starchy, depending on what you're cooking, and what you can do to mask that. And anything else that you steam, you got to add some flavour to it, some colour. What you're using the steam for is that accurate low temperature, moisture retention, all of those good things. And of course, don't forget the salt.
Always, always don't forget the salt. That's rule number one, I thought.
Yeah, well, because as you would know, like a steamed piece of fish is really good, okay, but a steamed piece of fish that's been seasoned properly is 10 times better.
Totally.
And I think a piece of fish steamed by itself has enough in it to be able to just hold up as a part of a dish. But maybe your greens or something like that might need a bit of an extra boost. It depends on what you're cooking. So yeah, well, back to the topic at hand, the topic du jour. There isn't really a lot which doesn't benefit from being steamed. I mean, there's certain things that I'm not a fan of myself. So zucchini, I don't like steamed zucchini, or courgette, depending on where you're from. And steamed pumpkin, I only do if I'm making a puree, because that keeps the really nice, rich colour of a nice, ripe orange pumpkin. So if I'm making a puree for a baby or something like that, that's a really good way to do it. But, roasted pumpkin is a totally different, that sticky sort of catch between your teeth chewiness that you get out of a really well roasted pumpkin. That's kind of appealing. But it depends on what you're looking for. And remember water content too. So if you've got a high water content vegetable as well, that's going to have an effect on what happens when you're steaming. So a pumpkin won't actually take a super, super long amount of time because it's very high water content. And you're working in a water-based environment, so it generally happens reasonably quickly. Whereas when you're trying to roast it, you're trying to cook that water out of it. So, yeah, a few differences. But, I mean, by all means, steam your pumpkin, steam your sweet potato, or steam them first to get the cooking process started and then roast them, or then chuck them on the barbecue or whatever. Like, so you've got the tool there. But, yeah, eggplant, steer clear. That's my... Maybe that should be our new motto. Eggplant, steer clear.
Steer clear. We should make a logo out of that. One of the things we have talked about not steaming in the past was pasta, where people are steaming pasta.
Yes. Yeah, and we've had a few sort of weird, well, over history, we've had a few weird sort of conversations around steaming rice as well. Because there's it's a weird one with rice because you have to have a liquid. So everyone thinks that steamed rice, well, not everyone, but a lot of people sort of, in their head, they go steamed rice. Okay, I put my rice in the steamer, close it up, and it'll cook. So you need liquid for rice to cook. And steamed pasta, early doors, we actually did see that, didn't we? We saw a few brands that were promoting, and they still do, actually. I saw one recently. Put some water in a reasonably deep dish tray, throw your pasta in the water cold, put the tray in the oven and steam it. And I've always been a big believer of just because you have the tool doesn't mean you should use it for everything. Like, it's not a, Swiss Army knife. It doesn't do everything. So the weird one for that is because pasta, it's quite starchy, it can stick together really well. And I think part of the idea behind boiling water is that you get that movement so it doesn't stick. While you can do it, I've never understood why you would. I mean, have you ever done it?
No. No, I've never tried it.
I mean, we've steamed fresh pasta, but that was like tortellini or raviolis, or I can't remember what they were, which I kind of think is a bit different because you're sort of portioning it out and it's a dumpling of sorts. That made more sense to me than steaming like spaghetti or fettuccine or linguine or something like that in some water. Like, and given that you're not saving any time, it's actually taking longer. I've never understood why you would. And then you're working in water that isn't moving either. So it's a bit, I mean, they're those things that when combi steamers first came out, they were those things that I think manufacturers thought would help convince people to buy it, but I don't see it. Like, I've never understood why you would steam pasta, like dried pasta, packet pasta.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about that one. That's a good one. Yeah. Forgot about that one.
And until we'd had this conversation, the only thing I thought that I couldn't, that I never even think about using for combi or steam is a PAV. But now there's a whole lot of other things to add into that. But not too many. When you think about it, it's actually not too many things that your steam or combi steam oven doesn't do the same or better. Like, really.
And I did have a conversation with a reasonably famous chef in Australia about pavlovas, and he had told me that he had done a steamed pavlova. Now,
really,
yeah. Now, while in theory it's true, you probably could, because you could get the egg white cooked enough. You're not going to get the crunch from it, clearly. No. But is it possible? Yes. Would you do it? Maybe, if you wanted to. I couldn't see the benefit in having it. I mean, part of a pav is that crunchy outer and that marshmallowy type inner part of it. Although my partner says that the pavlova is only there as a vehicle to carry the cream. That's the only reason why she likes pavlova.
That's the same reason she likes scones, isn't that?
Exactly. Yeah.
That, yeah.
And that's funny, actually, because I don't care for whipped cream at all. It's not my thing.
Yeah, it's funny how similar our partners are in their love of sweeties. Yes, because
Em's not. She's not huge on it, but
okay,
you
well,
know,
Dougie would eat scones with a small amount of scone and a huge amount of cream on top. And
yeah,
that's why our pavs are normally if we make a pav for someone when we used to have friends around or for special occasions, they
yeah.
normally end up being smashed in a big bowl with cream because someone comes along and likes taking off a bit of.
Yeah, but that's the beautiful thing about a pava. Even if you don't make it right, it's still good.
Oh,
It's
exactly.
kind of
It's so forgiving, isn't it? It's
yeah.
yeah.
Because even if it looks like a bit of a mess, you can just say it's an eating mess. There you go. Like it doesn't, it gives you a bit of freedom. But I did, and I lost the footage to it. But we did do, and now it's not a pav, but we did do il flottant, which is floating islands, a classic French dessert, which is essentially a poached meringue. But rather than poach it, we steamed it. So if that theory works, which it does, it's just that I have to re-film it because I lost the footage. But that actually did, I think you tried that too. That actually did work.
It's fantastic.
So in theory, you could steam a pavlova if you wanted to, or an egg white based dish.
But those
absolutely you could.
Those little floating bundles
Islands.
of water, yes. Were, I was trying to think, was there a French word in there that I can't pronounce? But
that's why they're called floating islands.
Thank you. They were quite small, and because they were quite sweet, so it wasn't like a pav, like in a traditional sort of sense, with crusty, crunchy bits. They were, quite small and very sweet.
We could, when we get back in the office, we could steam it, Patty, if you want. We'll try it.
And when we get back in the office, yay.
Well,
we will eventually. I mean, we'll have to get back at some point. And, but yeah, there's a few things that we've talked about that would be good to try. And just out of my interest for you, Paul, the potatoes that I did plant that are still growing are red.
You just sent Dougie out there to get the names, haven't you?
No,
you just did that. Yes, you did.
Red Norland,
you summoned him and said, Dougie, I need the names of the potatoes because they're not just white and brushed and baby.
No, not. But and when I saw these, I went, okay, what's a White Star, a Nadine, and a Red Norland? But they're the ones we've planted, and the White Star have gone bananas. They are absolutely, out of the top.
So Nadine's a quite well-known potato. That's a pretty reasonably common potato. And I think, look, my memory's not that great because I'm not ordering this stuff on a daily basis like I used to, but I think a pretty good all-rounder, actually, particularly good for roasting, but I could be wrong.
I'm just looking at
the White Star and the others, I'm not sure.
Well, the place I got them from, the good old Garden Express website, said that they're an excellent variety with white skin, creamy flesh. It's excellent for salads and boiling, and it's a very good variety for mashing and roasting. So, yes, all-rounder.
Yeah, see? There you go.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah, well, and other than that, I can't think of what else we wouldn't steam. I mean, things are going into a combi mode. It's a bit different because it's high heat and we're just adding a little bit of steam. So it was more about the steaming side of things. But there's not a lot else that I can think of that we haven't done and then we haven't tried. Like we've steamed doughs and all sorts of things. But yeah, my thought for the day is don't steam eggplant. Yeah.
Or that list is quite small when you think about the number.
Yeah, it is.
Things we can put into our ovens, and that's really quite fantastic. I mean, it's even another reason why steaming is so great.
Here we go. You're angling. You're angling for
I'm happy that my
promotional oven.
I'm happy that ours is back and it's working, and so that's after not having it for quite a few weeks, it's good to get it back. And lucky just before lockdown happened, otherwise you wouldn't have been able to get it back.
Oh, that's true.
I know, but anyway. Well, thank you for that. That was
my pleasure. Well, I don't know how we went off on a few tangents, but
as we
if anyone's got any things that they've tried to steam which haven't been any good, let us know. We can add it to the list. We might put a list up. What not to steam, according to us.
Everything is according to us. But that's good.
And then we'll put your name next to it, according to Linda. What not to steam.
And about potatoes. But I think it's a good idea to ask, like anything, ask the butcher if you're not sure about how to cook a particular type of meat, or wherever you buy your produce, ask the best way of cooking.
Talk to people.
Yeah, exactly.
If you can. If you're allowed out of your home.
If you're allowed. And it's easy to understand behind those dreaded face masks. Anyway, soon, one day. Well, you take it easy, and happy cooking, everybody. Until next time. Okay.
See you later.
See ya. Bye. Thanks for listening to this podcast as we explore home cooking in a modern world. We'd love you to subscribe, and for more information, please go to our website, cookingwithsteam.com.